Welcome to Open Studio, WGBH's weekly spotlight on arts and culture from around the region and the nation. I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on Open Studio, America the Beautiful and Unvarnished.
He wants to validate the people who are on the margins and sort of take the veil off the hypocrisy of what the country says it is and what it really is.
Then Wampanoag artist Elizabeth JamesPerry, forever tied to the ocean.
Wampum is very addictive. The shell is so intriguing. Each shell is unique. No two shells are the same. And so it's kind of a surprise when you're opening the shells and you see a new pattern.
We have all that and a surprise twist in a story we brought you on artist Jacob Lawrence. That's now on Open Studio. First up, this has been a year, let alone an intense election week, in which we've been taking a hard look at America. In the 1950s, photographer Robert Frank did the same, for better and for worse. This is the America of the 1950s. Champagne chatter, warm nights at the drive-in, and Hollywood poise and glamour. This is also 1950s America, a divide on the streets of South Carolina, political fervor, and labor traced beneath fingernails. This is photographer Robert Frank's America.
He wanted to document a civilization.
Armed with a Guggenheim Fellowship, the Swiss photographer drove 10,000 miles throughout his adopted country in 1955 and 56, taking some 27,000 photographs and whittling them down to a series of 83. He considered it a poem, says curator Allison Kemmerer.
It's not documentary photography. It's not a declaration of America is this or America is that. It's this idea of this kind of rhythm stanza. You hit a flag, you kind of pause, reset, think about where you've been, and then continue the journey.
Frank published the series, titled The Americans, as a photo book, first in France and then in the United States in 1959. The Addison Gallery of American Art is one of only 4 museums to own the entire series. It's presented in the same sequence here as in the book.
This is a 4th of July picnic in New York. Equality, freedom, opportunity, children in white dresses, that sort of innocent, buoyant energy.
However,
there's
a big butt looming here.
Yes, and I would say there's a clue, too. The flag itself is transparent. It's kind of like we're seeing through that symbol to see something a little deeper, perhaps. What is behind the veil? So the next image takes us to New Orleans, a trolley car, the racism, the segregation.
A little bit later on, the series grows seemingly menacing in the intent faces of 2 hitchhikers Frank picked up in Idaho. Then we're back on the street as a car, in all its energy, races past a group whose racing days are over. Maybe the same for the car in the following photograph, and then life itself in the next.
In the early 50s, things had changed. So there's escalating Cold War, the dawn of the civil rights movement, McCarthyism, the Korean War. There was just an underlying anxiety, suspicion, and negativity.
Which Frank toyed with. In this photograph of a young Kim Novak, we're not actually drawn to the Hollywood actress.
And it's less about the starlet than it is about all the gawkers surrounding her. And, you know, it's a very subtle but powerful comment on our celebrity worship and the value we place on fame and glamour.
Frank developed a mistrust, even an anger toward the ruling class, especially as he made his way through the segregated South.
He was arrested several times on the trip. He was not yet a citizen, so he was a foreigner, he was Jewish, he was held overnight in jail. He wants to validate the people who are on the margins.
The photographer returned again and again to symbols of America, lunch counters, cowboys, and jukeboxes. But as you've likely figured out by now, he captures them all with twinges of Hopper-esque loneliness. In fact, the painter Edward Hopper was an influence.
There was no prescribed, I am going to do this. It's more, I am going to travel, look, see, feel, and see what I learn.
And did he stay an observer or did he interact?
He did not interact. There's actually a great image that he cites as one of his favorite of an African-American couple in San Francisco, and they're lying down having a picnic, and they're turning around because they notice him, and it's obviously expressions of suspicion. He loved the way the black couple contrasted against the very white city.
When The Americans was published here, critics pounced. At a time when Ansel Adams defined photography with well-lit, crisp images, Frank tended toward the blurred, the grainy, and the provocative.
People did not like that. But at the same time, that style and that exposure of truth influenced a generation of photographers, writers, artists, and viewers.
Who can still look at The Americans and sometimes see them stare right back. Next, a new exhibition at the New Bedford Whaling Museum features the wampum work of artist and scientist Elizabeth JamesPerry. A member of the Wampanoag tribe, she approaches her pieces with the power of ancestry, history, and the sea, all at her fingertips. Elizabeth JamesPerry, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I have so many questions about all of you that you bring to your work, from your family history, who you are as an artist, a marine biologist, but talk me through what comes into play when you're making your pieces.
Sure. So when I'm practicing my art, I start with the quahog shells, and I kind of sort them by size and thickness and, I guess, age to some degree. And I look at the deeper purple part of the shell for cues to what kind of designs might come out of the shell really nicely. Sometimes there's really beautiful kind of stellar designs in the purple. Sometimes there's an image that almost suggests a fisherman casting his net, or a nice, rich bear. So it's a nice northern symbol. So I just look at those and scrutinize them and wait for some inspiration. And once in a while, I'll have a beautiful, beautiful shell, and I won't have an immediate need for it. So I'll just put it aside, knowing it's a special piece, and I'll just wait for the proper inspiration.
How do you find your shells? Where do you find your shells?
Sure. So I'm located right in Massachusetts in the South Coast area, and that's where I get my quahog shells. I also get them occasionally on Martha's Vineyard, near my home community of Aquinnah on Martha's Vineyard, I should say.
And how has it changed? And I understand this is, you look at climate, you look at the sea, as, again, going back to your marine biology background. Have you noticed the shells change in what turns up now and how many turn up now?
There's a lot of fishing pressure, of course, on quahogs in this region. So as a result, when I work with shell, I'm actually working with shells that are on average smaller and younger than those that my ancestors used.
How did you learn your process? I understand that it gets passed down, or in your case anyway, it's been passed down from woman to woman in your family.
Actually, so it's a little bit more flexible than that. I think my entire family, I should credit them all with being very creative and really influential. I grew up watching my mother practice scrimshaw, and so there's a strong background in jewelry. Wampum wasn't really as commonly produced when I was very young, but there were still some community members who were working with wampum. And then I think, gradually as we continued to use it and others began to really appreciate its value and its unique appearance, that purple and white shell is so striking and unique. I think we just had more of a market and a niche, and we had more opportunities increasingly to share culture along with the beautiful shell jewelry and along with the other cultural arts that we practice. And so it's just been something I think that's been more so steadily growing, and more, I think, tribal members are practicing it now.
Did all of those factors come into play with you, or what drove you to decide to really be an artist?
I think what drove me to focus on wampum arts was that I was also going through a phase of really immersing myself into 17th century Wampanoag history and culture. And wampum is such a huge part of those times still very, very common. And it was common for leadership to be adorned with belts. There's also leadership pendants. If you're made for it, I guess. Wampum is very addictive. The shell is so intriguing. Each shell is unique. No two shells are the same. And so it's kind of a surprise when you're opening the shells and you see a new pattern, new striations, new colors, and you get inspiration that way. It just keeps me going.
As you talk about and you think about your history, is this an especially poignant moment for you? I know this does play into why the Whaling Museum has your exhibition now in this moment where we're commemorating the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the Pilgrims here, which of course came of great consequence. What does that mean for you in this moment?
Sure. It was really meaningful for me when the New Bedford Whaling Museum approached me. Dr. Akia de Barros-Gomes approached me to potentially do an exhibit around the time of the 2020 exhibits. It seemed really timely. It was something of great personal importance because, of course, I have so many generations of Wampanoag whalers in my family, and so much of a strong association with Gay Head and New Bedford whaling history and Nantucket history as well through other lines. It was just really special. It was really unique. It was very close to my heart. I was really pleased to be able to be there representing my family. I think it's important to have those opportunities. I think that for me and for my community, it represents a chance to show that we're still here, that we still care, that we still have a connection with our homelands and home waters, and are still using some of the same traditional creative expression that were important to our ancestors as well. So there's a nice cultural continuity.
And finally, I just wanted to ask about one piece in particular. You walk into the gallery and it just blazes off the wall. It's the leadership medallion. Tell me about that piece.
Sure. So the leadership medallion is a piece that is referred to a lot as the wampum star. The symbol itself is actually a four-directional symbol that there's white that picks out that four-directional symbol or star or sun symbol. And it has to do with our beliefs in the qualities of a good leader and our expectations about what a good leader is. And among those properties is the ability to be really patient, be really consistent, to stay involved and engaged, and to stay present, and to be there to support your people no matter what, through thick or thin. And they could have, not stayed too true to their people. But when I look at their behavior, they sacrificed everything for us. They went through unbelievable hardships and met terrible ends. And I can't imagine I'm smiling, but it's like hard to process really on camera. They went through, they gave up everything, including their lives, so that we could be here today. And it's humbling. It's really amazing. It's very admirable. And it's not hero worshiping. It's the reality of how they carried themselves. And that's a challenge to live up to, but I think it's a worthy challenge.
Well, as I say, of all of your wonderful pieces, it just drew my eye. I think it came through in what you've created. Elizabeth JamesPerry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
It's time now for Arts This Week, and we're talking about a revolution. Sunday marks the anniversary of Andrea Bocelli's Sacred Arias. Released in 1999, it's become the world's best-selling classical album by a single artist. Monday, safety becomes a symbol of self-expression. See Los Angeles painter Richard Nielsen's portraits of mask wearers in This Is Not a Gag at Mass MoCA. See the work of one of history's greatest post-impressionist artists Wednesday. The Museum of Fine Arts presents Cézanne, In and Out of Time. April 19, 1775, the first shots of the American Revolution were fired during the battle at Concord's North Bridge. Thursday, relive history in the Concord Museum's 3 newest galleries. The Wadsworth Athenaeum presents an exhibition series that places singular masterpieces in the spotlight. Friday, see Chaim Gross's sculpture, I Love My Baby, up close and personal. We have a very happy update for you now. Earlier this year, we brought you a story about an exhibition of Jacob Lawrence's 1950s series called Struggle. 5 of the original 30 works in that project had been missing. But after the show moved from the Peabody Essex Museum to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, one of the missing pieces turned up. You see it here. It features the uprising of Massachusetts farmers during the American Revolution. To celebrate the discovery, we're revisiting our original story. Over 2 years, Lawrence painted a series of 30 panels, from Patrick Henry's struggle to reconcile the coexistence of liberty and slavery, to the harrowing push for westward expansion. Here at the Peabody Essex Museum, these panels are together for the first time in more than 60 years.
We have assembled and tracked and researched and investigated. It's been a little bit like being a detective.
Austin Barron Bailey is one of the show's curators. 6 years in the making, the exhibition features most of the original works.
There are panels that remain completely unlocated, and those are either in private hands or lost.
The whereabouts of 5 paintings is unknown, although the hunt is on. This one, panel 19, turned up at a New York auction as Bailey was working on the show. That must have been ridiculously exciting.
It was incredibly exciting. These are the accidents of history that have informed this show, that even informed Lawrence's work.
A darling of the modern art world, Lawrence was 37 when he began Struggle. By the time he put paint to canvas, Lawrence had spent more than 5 years researching American history, combing through historical records and teasing out quotations that would serve as his prompt.
He looked for the voices of founding fathers. He looked for these actions that people took in the struggle to build our democracy. And he offers it up as a way through these incredible paintings to draw you in.
Lawrence's take on history is an intimate one. Where Paul Revere gave us the Boston Massacre in full-blown battle, Lawrence delivered us straight to its first victim. Where Emanuel Leutz gave us a valiant George Washington crossing the Delaware, Lawrence delivers despair.
Cold, suffering, choppy weather, hints of blood, robed men trying to stay warm, hands, emphasizing these hands trying to row across, silently, steadfastly.
Each panel is relatively small, just 12 by 16 inches, and Lawrence routinely wrote notes about his process on the backs of the works, all as it related to struggle. Despite Lawrence's wishes to keep the series together at an institution, the paintings were ultimately sold off in the late 1950s. But Lawrence later considered the work a turning point, where he found a way to depict humanity.
And he offers it up as a way through these incredible paintings to draw you in and examine and think about your proximity to those stories and your relationship to them.
I think about someone like Jacob at a time where artists like him had very little opportunity to experience themselves as an artist. I'm sure it came with a lot of challenges and obstacles beyond his ability to create what he created.
A widely exhibited artist himself, Derek Adams says Lawrence, who died in 2000, has influenced his career more than any other painter. The exhibition closes with an installation Adams created after sifting through Lawrence's archives. It's an imaginary studio filled with photographs never before shown publicly. The chair is Lawrence's, oriented it seems for quiet contemplation, and facing a ladder, perhaps lifting Lawrence out of struggle.
You know, the ladder I think has to do with just the idea of the plight, his career, the plight of humanity. Jacob, starting from this very familiar place of being seated and thinking, and then the part of kind of ascending, he's no longer with us. But there's things that kind of give us a bigger picture of who Jacob was.
Which is of an artist defined in part by struggle. Next, we visit the modern-day designers getting to the heart and soul of vintage shoes.
American Dutchess is a small company that makes new old shoes. We take a really old design, something you see in a painting or in a museum, and we make it work for modern wear and comfort expectations. Everything from the 18th century, 19th century, and 1920s, 30s, and 40s as well. American Dutchess started as my personal blog on historic costuming. I liked to make things. I would make those things for myself and wear them to an event, a picnic, or a dance. It's just what I did for fun. And I thought, I'll blog about my experiences so that other people who have no idea how to make a wig or how to do this dress can learn from my mistakes. And it's always been about sharing my mistakes and learning that way. You don't want to put all this time and effort and sometimes a lot of money into your beautiful dress and then have no shoes to wear with it, because it crushes the illusion.
When you're creating these gowns, they are art pieces. And if you don't have the right shoes, it just kills it. And when you take those photos of yourself, or someone's taking photos of you, and you look at those later, you want to be able to say, I look like I walked out of a portrait.
You're not going to achieve that with tennis shoes under your dress. Believe me, I've seen it. Historic shoes are not like shoes today. They have strange closures. They have specific toe shapes or lack of toe boxes. You know, they're very, very different. So nobody was really making that kind of thing. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll have a go and make some shoes, not by hand. I couldn't make enough of them to make a living doing that. So I found a manufacturer and we developed a prototype. I put it on the internet and did a pre-order, did a crowdfunding campaign. And it funded overnight. Like overnight we had enough money to do the production run, and it was like, oh my God. I woke up in the morning like, oh, this is the thing. Okay, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do. Our first design was Georgiana, named after the Duchess of Devonshire. It was made out of dyeable satin. It was our first go. People were excited about it. I was excited about it. And it worked. We just kept producing like the next one, the next one, the next one. A typical 18th century shoe, the most characteristic hallmark that you might see on those are latchets with buckles. So this is the way that 18th century shoes closed. You have these two straps. You put one strap through here, you stick the prongs through the other one. You can make them as tight as you want, so you can keep tightening them. And it makes your shoes look very pretty. Historical accuracy is very, very, very important.
So the basic process starts with looking at original shoes, whether through photographs.
It's brainstorming, so we just kind of all get together and go, what sounds cool, what have we not made before, what are the trends in the community? A lot of it is research, looking at old magazine ads, catalogs, original shoes in our collections.
I've gone to a number of different museums and studied things hands-on, so that way I have an understanding of how they're constructed and what goes into the internals of them and things of that nature. All of that research gets done gradually as we find inspirations. Say we need a boot for this time period, and we go and find lots of different examples and pick what ones really speak to us, what we think would translate well to a modern design. And from there we do a lot of sketches, a lot of ideations, and then actually come up with the formal line drawing, and we put little tiny details of the sole should be this many millimeters, this eyelet should be this many millimeters wide, all the little tiny details in there, so that way the first sample that we get back is as close as we can get to right.
There is nobody who knows about historic shoes and how to make them better than Nicole Rudolph.
When I was at Colonial Williamsburg, I ended up learning how to do women's shoemaking in the proper 18th century style, all by hand, no machines, all hand stitched and assembled.
We're based here in Reno, and this is where we do all of the design, all the marketing and advertising happens here as well. We also pack, ship, and do logistics out of here, so there's a great big warehouse attached to this little tiny office. We do everything except the actual manufacture of our footwear. 95% of the world's shoes are made in Hojie. It is in South China. There are millions of people in Hojie, and it's a city that is built for shoe production. Factories, components markets, leather producers, just everything you need. So that's where we also manufacture our shoes. The people that we work with there are amazing. We produce fantastic shoes in China. because I get on a plane and I go over there and I make sure our quality processes are in place and that our materials are good and that our relationship with our manufacturer is good.
They really are unto themselves a sculptural, interesting piece of artwork, and they should stand on their own before you even put them on your feet. And then to add that in, to add the whole costume and to add the clothes, the dresses, everything, it just ends up completing the whole thing.
There are so many people in the world that are into historic costuming, or they're movie costumers or stage costumers. That's a whole market I never even thought about when we started. I was just making shoes for people like me. It's about helping other members of the costuming community be their best selves in the 18th century or the 19th century to make their most beautiful dress and impression or character. We want to create a fun environment to help people have a good time playing dress up.
And that is all for this edition of Open Studio. Next week, for artist Stephanie Cole, a lifetime of collecting leads to a cathedral of memories. Plus, new repertory theater leader Michael Bobbitt on ridding theater of racism. Until then, I'm Jared Bowen. Thanks for joining us. As always, you can visit us online at gbh.org/openstudio. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at OpenStudioGBH.